Hello and welcome to part 2 of this lecture on quantitative research design. Now here we're going to briefly discuss some desirable characteristics of good research design. So there's 3 main headings and some of these get broken down into subcategories. There are some further ones as well, but these are the main 3 we'll talk about. So there's reliability, validity and replicability. And first we'll just look at the first 2 together. Reliability is when the original researcher, so that's you doing your research or a team, if you were to repeat part of the study or the whole thing, would the results be consistent with the first version? In other words, if you assume with research you're trying to measure something about the truth about the world or the validity of a theory, if you measure the same thing again, you get the same value. And it could be just going back and asking someone the same question in the evening as you did in the morning, or would you get the same answer? Or if you ask 2 different members of a household about the amount of firewood that household collects, would you get a similar answer or not? Or if you collect a sample randomly of people from a village, if you went back and collected a similar sized sample the next day, are you going to get like wildly different things from that slightly different sample because of random effects? Or if you did the whole study that you've done, if you did it at a different time of year, or you repeated it the next year, would you get completely different results even though nothing much has changed? So if you're measuring the same thing in some way, are you getting a consistent value from that? That's reliability. Now validity is slightly different. It's whatever results you're getting, are they accurate? Do they accurately describe reality or whatever it is you're trying to find out? So you've got reliability and validity. And it's often illustrated. I wish I'd made this up, but I didn't. But I did draw the diagrams myself, but here's the concept. So looking at validity and reliability, it's often pictured in this way, so that the middle of the target is the kind of truth that you're trying to find out about. And in the first diagram here, we kind of got a bit of a scattering of what happened in different attempts at repeating the study, or repeating parts of the study and repeating the measurements. And this has got low validity because it's like, this is the truth, and one of them's got near the truth, the rest are kind of like all off, and not even kind of on average, they're kind of systematically too high and up to the left. So low validity, also low reliability because they're kind of scattered a bit. Over here, low validity again because you've went off the target, you've missed, but quite high reliability. So you're reliably wrong. Yeah. So that's high reliability, low validity. Down here, still low reliability because it's the same kind of spread as up here, a bit scattered around, but the validity has improved a bit because at least just sort of like averaging around the centre now, so it's not systematically pushed off. So you're kind of getting like an average picture that's more or less okay, even though it's not great. And then finally, of course, this is what you want, which is high validity because you're bang on the right thing, and reliability because you go again and again, you're getting right in that middle there. So that's the aim, is both high validity and high reliability. But when things go wrong, it's nice to know which one's gone wrong. Then within validity, how close you're getting to the truth, there's several different types can be distinguished, and there's others as well. These are the main ones are construct validity, ecological, internal and external. So just give you a couple more details on some of those. So construct validity is mainly about measurement. And it's about when you're measuring, and by measurement I mean not only physically measuring, but getting values from people. So it could be asking people their opinions on something, or how often they do something, or their income. So you're getting some measurement from the things you're studying, or people you're studying. Does it accurately capture the concept of interest? So if you've got something like poverty, how are you going to get a number on poverty? Is it about that individual in front of you? Is it like a head count poverty, percentage of the population? Is it to do with depth of poverty? Is it multidimensional? Similarly with vulnerability. You know what vulnerability means in everyday life, but how would you put a number on that? So that's the problem of construct validity. I put the next one in because it's ecological validity, to give you an example of other ones that people use. But first I wanted to just look at construct validity is the main one in terms of measurement difficulty people talk about. Other things you might have read research on, like happiness. Bhutan is famously the most happy country in the world, but can you really measure happiness with a number? Sustainability, everybody cares about sustainability, but how do you measure that? Openness to trade, different countries have different amounts of openness to trade. How do you define that? Firm growth. If you're talking about, is a firm growing well, does that mean that it's increasing its profit, it's increasing its turnover, it's increasing its net value, it's increasing the number of employees it has, or the market share? So how would you put one number to represent firm growth? Okay, let's have a quick look at ecological validity. So I say that as an example of other kinds of validity, but focus on constructs, that's the big measurement one you need to get straight. But ecological is a sort of variation. And it's to do with the way you're measuring things in your research process. Are the concepts used in the same way in everyday life? It's like the fish jumping back into the water. Is that concept in the water of real life the same as it is in the situation where you're asking people or measuring things? And examples where might be trust. I mean, you might play a game with people for small stakes of money. You get them in a classroom or a lab somewhere, you're playing games that they could really win some money, but it's small amounts of money, and you're seeing if they're going to trust each other or not. But does that trust that you're measuring there, if you say, yeah, okay, I'm going to contribute the same amount of money as so-and-so because I trust her or him, but if you and so-and-so are out in the real world, would you still trust them in the same way to like look after your children or engage in a big farming project with you? Is it the same meaning of trust? Similarly, things like fertilizer application. If you're on a trial plot and the experimenter's coming around and saying, hey, here's your bag of fertilizer, please put on 3 kilos of that per month. Is that the same as if you then buy the fertilizer yourself and you've got a whole season or several seasons, you're going to apply it in exactly the same way as when the extension officer and the measurement people are standing next to you supervising? So would the measurements be equivalent in the real life as they are in the experimental or the trial situation? So that's ecological, but as I say, it's kind of a branch of construct. So focus on construct, and then if you can get these others, that's great. And then we get really to the big two. Really, if there's any things that stand out, these are the big two that there's most debate over: internal and external validity, which is why we introduced these in year 1 because they're so important. So internal validity, that one, first one of the big two, is about have you really convincingly explained causality within the study. So within the data you have, if there's patterns like correlations or differences between two groups, have you established that being in those two groups is what causes the difference, or that the two things that are correlated are causally linked rather than just coincidence? So that's causality, which is a critical one, because if you're interested in influencing policy, we say, hey, look, let's change this policy that's going to have an impact on poverty or growth or happiness, you're relying on some causality there, because you're exploiting the causal relationships. So internal validity or causality is crucial. The other crucial one is external validity. So that's whatever you found out by talking to these 150 people here, does that apply in the rest of the population? If you studied this 6 hectares of forest, does that apply in the rest of the Amazon? So is whatever you find out in your sample going to hold in the general population, in other places, and also at other times? So internal and external are the crucial ones, and unfortunately they're sometimes in conflict. Sometimes you find that something which is ace for external validity, it's a bit shaky for internal validity, and vice versa. It's difficult to get both of those satisfied. It's a kind of trade-off. Okay, so those are the kind of validities: construct, ecological, internal, external. You'll also read about other ones. There's test validity, criterion validity, face validity, and various other ones. There's quite a long list. And unfortunately, there's some inconsistency in how they're defined. So the more you get into these esoteric ones, the less consistency there is. But construct, internal and external are consistent and crucial concepts. Okay, let's have a look at replicability. So replicability is about another researcher or another research team, or sometimes you at a different time in a different place, but could the study be repeated in a different context by different people? How accurately could they do it? So it could be it covers a whole range of things, like is there a sufficient information given? So in the published study, do they explain all the steps that are necessary, or is it just they're giving you the glossy results and not really telling you about all the factors that you really need to know about? And are there factors that present repetition? So if you're reading about some research carried out somewhere, is it only maybe nationals of that country, or people that have got particular social links or contacts with government, or maybe a gendered thing, so a woman might do something, a man can't get access to that situation, and vice versa. Or the original circumstances might have changed and moved on, so now no one can go back and do that. So they might not be able to do it, and if they did it, would they get similar results? Yeah, so do the original researchers explain exactly enough detail what the steps were, and is the original raw data available? And this is getting more and more encouraged these days, particularly in sort of top journals that not only do you publish the results, but you give the data there as well, which means that anybody can download the data, run the analysis you've done, and they should get similar results. And then they can also gather data that conforms to yours and see if they can get similar results as well. Yeah. And so replicability is, if you've heard of replicability, it may well be in the context of psychological research, that some quite kind of jazzy sounding psychological studies and results that have been publicised in recent years, people have tried to replicate those and found, well, they don't quite get exactly the same things. So, but unfortunately, we can't just laugh at psychology, because also in other areas of social science, even in economics, there have been some replicability doubts recently. So those are the main studies. Oh, I forgot I had this nice picture on replicability. So replicability is expressed in this diagram, that this is you. When you read the original study, you'll start to dream and think, hey, look, my published research, my dissertation, I'm going to do similar things to what these people did, see if I can follow it up, get the similar results, and I can compare my results to theirs. So I'm really going to learn. They've done this study on Uganda. I'm going to see, okay, is Nigeria the same? And then when you try and do it yourself, yeah, great, high replicability. Or if it's low replicability, you get this. I really toyed with the idea whether I should have a cat or something over here, but I thought that I might get complaints. Anyhow, so that's replicability. So that's a short overview of things that we think are desirable about good research. It should be reliable, should be replicable, and it should be valid. And there's different ways of unpacking valid, depending on that list of different ways of looking at it. But broadly speaking, it's the same thing. How accurate is it capturing the truth? Okay, so in the final part, we'll go and we'll look at some different types of design as a kind of introduction to the next few weeks of the course. But for now, thanks for watching.